Hi everyone, myself Dr. Prasad, Department of General Medicine. Today I am going to discuss about a drug which is prescribed left and right to all the patients whether the indication is there or not. If you observe 100 prescription papers of 100 different patients, at least 80 to 90% of the prescriptions contain this drug, and the drug is Pantoprazole, that is a proton pump inhibitor. Without wasting the time, let's go through some physiological aspects of the gastric acid secretion. We all know that the main source of the gastric acid production is the parietal cell. Coming to the location of the parietal cell, they are mainly located at the fundus and body of the stomach. Let's see, this is the structure of the parietal cell which contain the canaliculi, and these canaliculi are lined by the microvilli. Initially the HCl is secreted into the canaliculi. From the canaliculi then they are released into the lumen of the stomach. Coming to the mechanism of production of hydrochloric acid, that is the gastric acid. This is the parietal cell. This is the parietal cell, and this is the apical border of the parietal cell, and this apical border is towards the lumen of the stomach, and this is the basolateral border. This basolateral border is towards the interstitial fluid. As we've seen in all the cells, at the end of the metabolism, in parietal cell also, there is a production of carbon dioxide. This carbon dioxide combined with one water molecule results in the formation of carbonic acid. This carbonic acid again divided into one bicarb ion and one H plus ion. Here you see there is a pump called as proton pump. This is the proton pump. This proton pump this proton pump, with the help of H plus K plus ATPase, send this H plus ion to outside of the cell in exchange with one potassium ion. So what is the function of this proton pump? This proton pump send this H plus ion to outside of the parietal cell in exchange with the K plus ion with the help of this H plus K plus ATPase enzyme. Coming to this potassium ion, and what is the source of this potassium ion? If you go back at the basolateral membrane, there is another pump known as sodium potassium pump, and the function of this pump is it send one sodium ion to outside of the cell in exchange with one potassium. So this sodium potassium pump send one potassium ion inside the cell in exchange with sodium. So this potassium is main source for the potassium ion at the proton pump. If you come this side, this is a bicarb ion. This bicarb ion go out of the cell in exchange with one chlorine ion with the help of an exchanger known as HCO3 minus Cl minus exchanger. So with the help of this HCO3 minus Cl minus exchanger, this bicarb ion move out of the cell in exchange with one chlorine ion. From the interstitial fluid, this bicarb ion then move inside the blood. Coming to this chloride ion, which is entered into the cell with the help of this exchanger. This chloride ion will eventually move outside of the parietal cell. Now H plus is already available here. This chloride ion combined with this H plus ion results in formation of hydrochloric acid, and this is our gastric acid. In this way, this gastric acid is produced. If you inhibit this proton pump by giving some drugs, then the proton pump will not work. When the proton pump will not work, this proton pump unable to send this H plus ion to outside of the cell. So when the H plus ion is not move outside of this parietal cell, then the H plus is not available here. When the H plus is not available here, then this chloride ion is unable to fuse with the H plus ion. So when the chloride ion is not fusing with this H plus ion, then the production of the HCl is inhibited. So in this way, if we inhibit this proton pump, this results in inhibition of production of the hydrochloric acid. So those drugs which inhibiting this proton pump are known as the proton pump inhibitors. Example is the Pantoprazole. These proton pump inhibitors are the most efficient drugs because they are blocking the final step of the HCl production. So this is the reason these proton pump inhibitors are the most in preventing the production of the hydrochloric acid. Coming to the timing of the gastric acid secretion, this gastric acid will not secrete throughout the day 24 hourly. There are three important phases during which the HCl will produce. These are the cephalic phase, gastric phase, and intestinal phase. Coming to the cephalic phase, it occurs even before food enters the stomach. That is, psychic stimulation of the gastric juice in response to sight, smell, thought, or taste of the food. Coming to the gastric phase, this gastric phase occurs once the food enters the stomach. And finally, the intestinal phase, this occurs when the food enters the duodenum. Among these three phases, this is gastric phase is an important phase during which more than 60% of the hydrochloric acid will produce. So, after taking the food, that is postprandially, this HCl production is increased drastically. So, in the process of the production of more amount of HCl, more amount of H plus is formed. Along with this more amount of H plus, more amount of HCO3 is also formed. This more amount of HCO3 after taking the food is then moved into the interstitial fluid. From the interstitial fluid, this HCO3 then reaches the blood. Because it is alkali, the blood pH become increased. So blood become alkaline. So when such alkaline blood passes through the kidney, this kidney filtered this more amount of HCO3 into the urine, then urine also become alkaline. So after taking the food, that is postprandially, the HCO3 is produced in more amounts. Such HCO3 is then released into interstitial fluid, then into the blood. So the blood become alkaline and also urine become alkaline. This is known as postprandial alkaline tide. Finally, please subscribe my channel, and if you really like this video, please click the like button and share my video and give your valuable comment. Thank you.